Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining this episode of Cults and Overcoming. So, super excited today. My guest is someone that more recently came out of Straightway Restoration City, and she was there with her and her family going through the rehab program part. And she is here to tell her story of what it was like there. She was there for about 2 years and some of the red flags that were going on and how they finally got out. So I'm just going to go ahead and welcome Amanda. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank
That's
you.
good. Was that a doggy in the background?
Oh yeah, she's back there.
Okay.
I think you heard my son yelling on his video game. I'm gonna have to text him and tell him to be quiet.
Oh, it's fine. I was
He's not too loud.
The dog might have to make an appearance at the end. So
Okay. Yeah, she's lazy. She's over there sleeping.
Oh, so. I love dogs. So
okay.
All right, well, we'll just get started.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, y'all were there from 2018 to 2020.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so first, I guess, why did you guys go there and how did you hear about it?
Well, my uncle went in 1988 when it was Teen Challenge. So that's how, and I don't know how he heard about it. Probably we were a part of the Assembly of God Church. So I'm assuming someone through our family friend or a church friend or somebody like that. Mm-hmm. And so he went and he had a problem with alcohol and drugs, and he went in 88 and he's had a great life. You know, he struggled a little bit. Wasn't just, it's never smooth sailing with recovery. And I like to use recovery. That's thing they didn't use, but he's been doing well. He has had a good life and it worked for him. So I was in the same boat. I was quite a bit older though. He went when he was 18.
Oh,
so that's how we heard about it. And so let's see, that was in 88. So let's say 30 years later, I went. Yeah. So, I was an addict for since I was 15. So we're talking 15 to 30 years old. So that's 15 years of my life that I was pretty much, I had a problem. And it wasn't, back even 15 years ago, it wasn't talked about. It wasn't it's just something that we swept under the rug. Even with Mark, we talk about it now, there's an open dialogue, but I think it took a lot for me to admit that I was an actual addict, that I had a problem. But it came to a head, you can't function as an addict. So I finally got tired of the lifestyle and, my kids were suffering and stuff, and it got really, really bad. So I went, I went to Kentucky for a year actually. And then I came back and then decided to go to rehab about 6 months later. So I was homeless in Kentucky for a year. So that's how it came to a head.
Yeah. What were you addicted to? If you don't.
Oh yeah, everything.
Okay.
Alcohol. I mean, I've never really been into alcohol and cigarettes. The two most addictive things. Never really was a problem, but pretty much everything else. And then, so I'm going to say in 2016 I've always kind of was a binge user. So I was able to use and it wasn't a life, you know what I mean? My life was, I can control it, I guess. And so it became unmanageable in about 2016. And I let my kids go live with my mom, and I was in Kentucky for a while. And so between 2016 to 2018 is when it all kind of, things after you die, you go to jail or you get better. And I got better, so.
Well, at least you got better,
Yeah. I'm grateful for sure for my recovery. Definitely. But I would think, I think when anyone's ready, and you make a commitment, I believe that, it is what it is. I probably could have gone to prison and it done the same for me.
Mm-hmm.
So
mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So you guys get there and everything. You said you went there first and then your kids came.
Yeah, they wanted me to be done with the first part of it, where they just make you read the Bible all day and learn all. I got really good at it because I wanted to be done with it. So I would just, and it was the phase 1 or whatever they called it. And I got through that before the kids came, which was really good because I could just focus on them. And it was better when they came. It was super hard. And I think that's why they kind of separate you from your family, because it's vulnerable. And I was malleable. I was you know what I mean? I was just whatever, just tell me how to fix myself. And so they get you to where, and you're super emotional because you're off drugs, freshly, most of the people that come are. So it's just kind of almost a manipulation to separate. There was no reason for me to be away from my kids. That was super hard. And
Yeah.
like the first thing that my mom was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. But it was in the Bible. Otherwise, I'd probably like cry myself to sleep every night. But other than that, so that was a hard 2 months.
Yeah, I bet. So you were, how many months did you go through the actual program part?
About 14.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you feel like they kept wanting you to be in there?
Yeah. They waited until I quit like acting like I had to pretend that I wasn't ready, basically. Because they want you to stay submitted. And that was the big theme. Like, you're not ready to be in reentry because you want to have some independence. You have to be submitted before so I had to play like I was not ready, basically, like I was going to stay there. And even David had talked to me before they put me in reentry, or maybe it was shortly after, about staying. The big thing is I needed to stay there. So
do you think any of it had to do with that they were trying to get you to keep longer in the program part so you would keep giving money?
Maybe. I did pay my full sponsorship.
Yeah.
I never was late. We paid probably the full amount that they could charge. My dad actually gave a lot to the church, even after, like the things they would have, you know what I mean? Like the fundraisers, and even when he'd come to visit, he'd always, give. He's a good guy. He's a devout Christian, and he's a good man,
Yeah.
And they were helping me, and he, so he just,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's just crazy because I've known, now that I've been talking to more students that have gone through the rehab part of it, they've kind of said the same thing. It's giving different months or years. Like some people say it's 2 years, some people say it's a year. So I'm like 16 months, 14 months.
Yeah.
I think it personally is the fact that if you have money, your family might have a little bit of money, they want you to keep staying to give.
Absolutely.
And they don't have, I mean, don't most rehabs, I don't know because I've never been to another rehab, but I feel like most rehabs have a set, this is a month long, or this is 3 months.
Oh yeah. I don't know either.
Like you don't have like you're good whatever we tell you kind of thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's
like, when
funny.
can you get your life back?
Yeah, that's funny that you say David talked to you about that, because maybe because there was fewer people there now, but David used to never like talk to people. Like
they had nobody on staff. Like it was me and Roxy. I mean, and then there's a few church people. So, and I was like, there, you know what I mean? Like really hard, because I feel like some of the other people had their free time, like the old people that had been there longer, and they deserved it. You know what I mean? And so I'm younger. And so it was just a lot. They put a lot on me, I feel like. But then, it's like, okay, here's your responsibilities. But if you don't do them, then you're a bad person. And so it's just a lot of stress.
Sounds like it, especially having your 2 kids there. And your husband was there with you as well, right?
No, he was in prison at the time.
Oh, okay. That's okay. Okay. Yeah. And then he ended up joining you there?
No. I graduated when he got out of prison, like this same month, So, and we have been writing back and forth. Of course, mine was all like, he said, I knew you were brainwashed from your letters. Like
That's what he said?
Yes. He said, I have to get my wife from this place.
Gosh, wow.
Yeah, he said, this is not my wife. And so, yeah, he knew, like, and then I said, my mom knew pretty close to the end of me graduating, just because I was like, okay, I can't leave. She's like, why not? So, and I, we were writing letters, and he came and saw us. I'm going to get emotional, but it's like a good thing. It is. I'm sorry. Okay. It was, we were apart for 6 years, and I was with him. We were together and we've been married for 14 years. So apart for 6 of it. And, we got married out, when I was like 19, 20 years old. So together most of my life. And he's the father of my children. And it's just really I don't know. I didn't think I was going to get emotional.
It's totally fine. Yeah.
He came, and that's what gets me emotional. It's for my son's birthday. And he surprised us, or he surprised my son. He wrote me, but Jordan, it was his 13th birthday.
Mhm.
And they had him waiting, and he came, and like, it was really sweet. It was really sweet. And he surprised the boys.
Mhm.
And I don't know, I just fell in love with him again,
Mhm.
it was just really cool. And we were, that was something a red flag there, because they told me, okay, so they gave me my phone when I was in reentry, because I wanted to call him, and I made it pretty clear I wanted to go get a phone so I could call them. And so that was something they flagged me for. And so when I did get my phone, I was only allowed to like talk to him once a week. So
Mhm.
deleting text messages. So like they said, we're not going to check your phone, but just in case, I would delete them. And he was like, yeah. So of course, by that time, he's like, oh my gosh, yeah. This is not a good situation, because I mean, if we didn't have kids, if he was on drugs, but he was working, like he immediately, he was a part of a program in prison. So like immediately went to work, and he has a really good job, and he's still at the job.
Mhm.
Everything worked out for us, we're happy.
Well, that's good. So
Yeah.
you said he came and surprised y'all. That was
Yeah.
at
At the center. It was my
Restoration
son's birthday.
Okay.
And like we planned it out, and we surprised. Actually, I think my younger son knew. He didn't tell him. He kept the secret. It was really sweet. So he's him, and he came to the center, and it was really awkward. But like my dad came, and we got and went into a dorm by ourselves, and Becky, and they were super weird about it. Like I was like, no, I just want it to be my family, and it just was weird. But then I went away with my family. I went in the room, and I was like, this is what we're gonna do, because it was what I want. We needed some privacy.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So did he stay after, like when he came to do that? Did he stay, or he went back?
No, he was in like a halfway house at that point.
Okay.
The program he was in prison. So he stayed there, and it wasn't really a halfway house, because he could leave, like he didn't have to be there. It was just a play, like the program that he was in prison was like, it's called PEP, and it's really awesome. And so it's they just pretty much put him up, and he was staying in like a really like 3-story house. It was super nice, but he was on his feet pretty quickly, and it just lined up and worked out. So
okay. So what were some beginning red flags? I know you kind of mentioned one right now, but what were some other beginning red flags? I mean, obviously most of it was probably when you were going through the rehab part, but even like that, you saw some stuff,
For sure. So I guess my son, he had got a staph infection, and he's had it before we came to the center. And I had him when I was a kid, and so I knew he needs to get treated. There's like only one kind of cream that you use. It comes through your nose anyway. So it's a whole thing, and they'll keep coming back, and they can get in your bloodstream. They can kill you. It's a whole thing. So I had one, and I said, look, I wrote it up. I had to write it and put it in my thing and give it to him, and then wait for an answer to be written back to me, because you're not allowed to have a phone or do anything. Even when your kid's sick, you have to write it up. So they told me, no, we're not going to take him to the doctor. We'll take a picture of it and send it to a nurse that's a part of the church. So they did that, and she was like, okay, well, just drain it yourself. And I don't even understand what was the big deal, like they couldn't take me to the doctor. So, but we did that because I'm like, he had this bump, and I'm like, my kid, I've got to get the poison. It was red, it was swelling, it was getting bigger. And then so we drained it, and it went away. But immediately, I mean, I could see the other one forming when we were draining the one.
Oh God. Oh,
yeah. There's a little black dot. Like, it's really clear what it is. I know exactly. I know it's your kid. You're like, so I grabbed him, and I ran to the office and banged on the window, and I demanded they take my kid to the doctor. And they did, but they reprimanded me. I got a demerit for that. And then they counseled me. It was a quick one though. It wasn't like a long counseling session. It was just like, you're a hypochondriac. Oh, and there was another time and this was like pretty like close together, where Jordan had the staph. My other kid had a cavity filled, right? And he had numbed it, and they I had to go back to work. I couldn't even like take the rest of the day off. So he went to the nursery or with the kids or whatever, and he bit his lip. And I mean, it swelled up to like, you couldn't see his nose almost. And
Oh,
let me take him to the doctor. And it was it was horrible. Like it did go down, but it was like, because I was riding up so like, you know, right after the other to take my kids to the doctor. But kids, they hurt themselves, they get infections, they get sick, part of it, you know. And so that was pretty bad. And it wasn't I was the only one that had kids that they didn't, you know, tend to the way they needed to, for sure.
I can't believe about the staph stuff. Like I've had staph infection,
Yeah,
and
it is
you
painful.
really have to, it is painful, and you have to go get an antibiotic for it to go down. And if you don't, it will come back.
Yeah, and they're contagious.
If you doing what y'all did, like just like trying to drain it, it can get even worse.
I know, it can get in your blood that way. Yeah.
You don't have the proper tools and
no,
stuff.
It was me. The lady that liked pigs, I know y'all thought that's how y'all referred to it. It was me and her, and we were in my dorm, and my poor baby just like pouring like peroxide on it. She's like, she brought a lighter because we're not allowed to have a lighter, so we I'm so blessed, lucky that he didn't really get sick.
How old was he at the time?
Probably 12.
Oh, poor kid.
I know.
I mean, I had them when I was adults, and I was wanting to cry. As a kid, I'm sure you're like, oh, I'm gonna die. Oh man, I'm so sorry. But I've heard a few other stories about that when it comes to like either the kids or whatever, or adults as well. When it comes to, they won't take you to the doctor.
Yeah, really. They're taking away your basic human right, I think, right?
Yeah. Like they might, if it's like really, really like the person's about to die or something. Yeah. But there was I was 10 years old, and there at the center, and I guess they thought I had the flu, but it was just so bad. I still have these memories of throwing up constantly, but not just like, okay, this is gross, I'm sorry, not just like throwing up, but like spewing throw up, like it's coming out, you know. And this was for days. I couldn't keep anything down. It was horrible. Anything I ate just came right back up. My stomach just constantly hurt. Finally, like it was a nurse that was there, came and checked on me, felt around my stomach, and she's like, yeah, I think that, you know, her appendix, there might be something wrong with that.
Oh my goodness.
We get to the doctor, and my appendix had burst. It had already burst. And I go into emergency surgery right away. I mean, I could have freaking died. If we probably would have waited a few hours later, I would have died. So I really don't know if this was like them or my mom not wanting me to go to the doctor. I'm not too sure. Either way, even if it was the flu, you still take your kid to get to the doctor. Like, I'm literally throwing up constantly.
Yeah, because you'll be dehydrated, and then when you get dehydrated, you get a fever, and then because that also happened. There was another time that my youngest had got a fever because he was dehydrated, and it was actually a student that was, and she said did some nursing school, and she, this baby's dehydrated, we need to get some Gatorade and water in him, and his fever will break. And they wouldn't let me take him to the doctor. I go, no, you know what? I already had. We'd taken him to the doctor twice, still couldn't get his fever to break. And it was weird. Like it was probably just some crazy thing, but he was dehydrated, and it was something that overlooked at his pediatrician. But it was even a big deal for me to go make him popsicles. Like,
oh, man.
Yeah. And then the girl actually spoke up. She was like, you know what? We're going to make that baby popsicle. She's like, she left right then and went and made my kids, some Gatorade.
Lordy. And what was the living situation like?
Well, at first I was the only girl, so it was awesome. But I was lonely. So it was like, okay, I wasn't allowed to talk to the guys, but I couldn't talk to any girls because there was none there. So I had me and my big sister. She was a staff worker, you know, and so, and she was so nice. We bonded, and it was nice, but it was lonely. My kids weren't with me, and so then a girl came, and it was difficult living with her. She was, freshly coming off stuff, and she was a difficult person. You know what I mean? And I won't say too much about that, but it just was like, I feel like they put us in a situation where we were meant to be like combative with each other. You know what I mean? Like hit us against each other, like, and call it accountability. Anyway, so that wasn't too bad though, because it was just me and her and my kids. Now, then when people started to come, they didn't know what to do with us. So eventually, I mean, they moved me 8 times, and it was horrible. Like moving that much with my kid, and you never know who you're going to be living with. And so they would kind of pick and choose who they were going to let like choose to live. You know what I mean? Like somebody would be vocal, and if they were favored, they'd get to live with who they want to. They'd always put me with the most difficult people, always. Yep. Maybe I just feel like I'm sensitive or something, but like I feel like, okay, Amanda can handle that, because I never really like bucked at them. You know what I mean? I never rebelled or complained or anything. So I would just do what they told me to. And at one point, it was me and a mother with her 4 kids under 6 and my 2 kids in a 3-bedroom dorm. We didn't have a kitchen. We had a fridge, and they weren't allowed to have snacks. Like they would barely it was really weird. They denied the kids food a lot. Like moms, I remember having to be worried about what my kids would eat.
Jeez.
Share in Walmart. And I'm not going to say they denied us food, but as a mom, I like to have stuff at any time to feed my kids. I don't want them to just have goldfish. And I saw kids just snacking on goldfish all day. Should be able to just grab food. They shouldn't have to have what's in the, this. And there's one of the moms came, and that was a big reason why she left, because she had a baby, and they allowed me to have snacks because my kid was special needs, but then they would not let them pack their lunches. They would not let them eat breakfast before school. They would have to, they have to eat breakfast at school. So it just didn't make any sense. And like, they almost told me I couldn't pack my lunch, but because my kid has autism, they let me pack my lunch. So then the other moms are seeing me get to give my kids snacks and food. But even that, on my grocery days, I would have to ration stuff out. And then you have roommates' kids where you're having to hide food from each other. And it's really stressful. And they have your food stamps. They get you.
I can't believe this. So did they make you give them your food stamp card?
I didn't have food stamps when I went. Because my mom had the kids, so I didn't take I just left that with her. She was in charge of that. I eventually got my own. I applied while I was there. So, and then when I graduated, because I was on my 2 feet, and I did apply because I didn't make that much money. So I qualified for food stamps still. And so I was still giving them half, but that I'm not really saying that was a bad thing, because they fed me and they let me take food to work and stuff. So like, I didn't mind giving my food stamps and stuff, but at the same time, I didn't have a stove to cook on. So like, kind of had to rely on that.
So what were some other, along with all of that, the kids not getting too many snacks or whatnot, what were a couple other things that were just kind of seemed off?
Here, let me look. I have some more stuff here. So, they worked me like, okay, so I to the point where I started taking kratom just to get through my day. Do you know what that is? Well, that's a whole other can of worms. So you can get it at like smoke shops or like vape shops, in like the little convenience stores. And it's basically an opiate. It's legal. And I knew about it just being an addict, and I couldn't get through the day without just breaking down, wanting to pass out, because I was working, and then I'd come home and I would just get no peace. I had no privacy, no peace. And this was, I was already graduated, but I started taking kratom like every day, and I was so sick from it. I lost so much weight. I was like, I was super skinny. And no one cared. No one knew, I was able to hide this addiction and it's terrible. Like, I can understand there's a place for it for like harm reduction, but I was already clean been sober and was in recovery, but there's no like recovery to it. They said, you're recovered, but no, I wasn't, you know what I mean? I still needed help. And they were just like, no, you're going to help us. You know, you're good now. So you help us. So I would just get my kratom and get through the day. And then when I left, it's like, okay, so then I had this addiction to kratom. I had to my husband. Yeah. And so, but I joined the gym and like started eating healthy and gained my weight back and everything. So I'm better now, but it took a year and a half of not even, I didn't even realize I was like brainwashed, to be honest with you. So
it does, you know, that's definitely how it is. It takes a good year to 2 years after leaving just to realize all the layers that were going on. Because like you said, they get you when you're at your lowest and you are at a point that like, I'm willing to do whatever to change. Yeah. I mean, you know, it is good to get to that point where you're finally just like, I want to beat this. But at the same time, that's when they get you when you're most vulnerable. And then they get you through all this. And then you kind of feel like at the end of it, you kind of owe them and they take advantage of that.
Absolutely.
And so why did, so you were still working, like doing like work crews and stuff like after you graduated?
Oh yeah. And if if I wasn't doing enough, they would sit me down and talk to me. And of course, I was always paranoid that I was going to get caught taking my kratom. And so I would be like, just yes, ma'am, yes, sir, whatever you want to hear. Cause I didn't like, I was always like, oh my God, they're going to be sitting me down about this, you know what I would, no, I don't want to say too much more. Okay. But yeah, that they would be, I would always be paranoid, you know what I mean? And so it was always a situation where I was scared I was going to get caught. Like when I was done with the program, like with my husband. Okay. So I would go visit him and I would just leave because I couldn't, if I asked, they weren't going to let me. And that was a problem because they were like, you're just taking up and leaving. And so and they sat me down. It was my roommate and my mentor. And I've been 2 or 3 times. And one of them was like a holiday. And so they sat me down and I don't even know, it was so uncomfortable. And they asked me if I was having sex with him.
Oh my God.
I know. And I lied. I'm like, of course not.
I'm sorry, I'm trying not to laugh.
I'm 32 years old at this point, 31. I was so uncomfortable. And like, I really feel like there was something going on with my roommate and my mentor. Like,
oh, between them?
Yeah. And I don't want to say too much about that, but yeah, I kind of feel like that was a thing. And so when they both set me down, I feel like it was a deflection on what was going on with those two. But it was an uncomfortable, like, I don't even know. It was so uncomfortable. Like having all these 2 grown women. No, I'm not sleeping with my husband. Nothing serious. I'm not leaving. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, we're just worried about you. And one of the times I came back from visiting him, it was like 8:00. And now I like to be in bed by like 7:30 with my kids. That was a big thing too. I like to be in bed early with them and everyone would just be making noise. And it seemed like everyone was like, I don't know, what's the word? I'm like losing my words. Like, you know, like attentive to everyone else. But like when it came to me or my kids, it was like, I guess because I had been there a while and I was new, but they were always so loud. Like that was the thing. Like I'm like, don't wake my kids up. I don't know. It was a part of me having no privacy. That was a big part of it. We had no privacy.
So you're already out of the program and you're going to see your husband that you are married to. That is so weird.
And he's sober and he's working and he has a vehicle and he's, you know, saving money to get us a place, which he did all these things, you know.
What was their reasoning for you for them not wanting you to be
he wasn't a part of their church.
Okay, because he wasn't a part of the church.
See, they were like, he needs to get biblical counseling. I said, okay. They never facilitated that. David said he would, but it never happened. You know what I mean? There was never any, like, it's a 2-way street. And I feel like they put it all on my shoulders. And I'm like, no, you know, I'm not going to do all this for you guys. I can't physically do anymore. So, you know, like y'all, it pretty much the ball was in their court and I didn't have anything keeping me there, you know?
Did they tell you were unequally yoked?
Yes. Yes. And I grew up in the church. So I
use that a lot.
Yeah. But my husband is a believer, you know, that's something that is a whole other thing, but I don't want to talk too much about that either. But you know, he's not like a heathen. We used
No,
to
I totally get it. Even if you went to a church, but you didn't go to their church, they did
yeah.
not want you. It's so weird because they don't want you dating. I don't know how it is there now, but they didn't want you dating outside the church when it's like there's not a lot of guys to choose from here.
Yeah, exactly.
And what the heck? Maybe that's why there were so many affairs going on within the church
Yeah,
when I
maybe.
was there. I don't know what's still going on, but when I was there. Uh, oh my God, that's just so crazy. I can't believe they would just like get you to confess all this stuff, and you're like, why am I talking to you about my sex life?
Yeah,
You're my
right.
husband.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I was already like, okay, I'm leaving. And so my husband, I called him and I was like, I can't be here anymore. He's like, okay, give me so and so 2 weeks. And because he had been saving up. And so I was like, okay, 2 weeks. And I called my dad. I was like having a nervous breakdown at this point. Phone. Called my dad and he like gave me his blessing. So then it was like a weight lifted off of me. So, like my dad's like you know what I mean? At that point, he was like my rock, you know what I'm saying? Because my husband, so I relied on my dad and he's a good, you know, he's been through it. And so I knew if I had his blessing, it just helped me. And my mom was already like, yes, get away from there. But my dad is more like, he's more thoughtful, you know, in his actions and things like that. And so he was like, yeah, that it's time. You know what I mean? That's fine. Because we had already had everything planned out and we both had vehicles. We had enough money to get a place.
Mhm.
And so I didn't tell him. And I think I told him a week before, right? I like
That you were trying to leave, like,
yeah, I didn't tell. I told the student girls,
yeah.
and no one ratted me out. I'm so surprised. But so I was sitting there with one of them and I was like, I'm leaving with my husband. And she was like, yes, that's awesome. But you need to tell them like that's the right thing to do. I said, you know what? You're right. It is. So I just got up and went to the office and sat down and I said, and I sat down in front of Becky. It was super awkward. And I'm like, it was a lot of it was like, I used the pandemic as an excuse. I'm not going to lie.
Mhm.
I was like, you know, my mom might be sick. I want to be closer to her, and which is not a lie because she did have a brain surgery recently, so she had some stuff,
Mhm.
some health issues going on, and it was a pandemic, and I didn't want to be in a bubble with these people, and I knew we were gonna get it. I knew it was gonna happen eventually, and
Mhm.
able to have. I just didn't. I just knew anyway. So it was just time, and she was like super weird. She got this weird look on her face and she was like this. And like she called my dad immediately as soon as I left her office and told him. And so then he was like, well, I know. and, and he told her, he said, well, Amanda is very sensitive. And I guess I am, but I was scared, honestly. I mean, being nice, I was scared to death. And I'm a grown woman. Like I was not, you know, I was taking the kratom, but I wasn't like, I was managing my life. It was fine. But I feel like if I would have stayed, I probably would have relapsed big time,
Mm.
you know,
Wow.
because if I
Yeah.
hadn't have cut that off, what I was doing, it would have led to more things. And Wharton it's easy to get drugs in Wharton, you know, anywhere really. But I feel like it is an open door when you have that, and no one was holding me accountable when I wasn't, you know, it was easy to kind of get away with it as long as I was putting in enough hours at, you know, working in or nursery or whatever, then they would off my back. So
Yeah, as long as you were doing those 20-hour work days, as
yes.
long as you were serving enough. Oh my goodness, man. Yeah, that's it just seems like just one thing after the next, you know. I mean,
Oh,
you
I
said,
have more, but yeah, I think those were like the main things that I feel like, you know, just if a living condition is that bad, then they basically strip you of your rights. But then they tell you though that that's the way, like you give up your rights as a person. That's part of the
eh,
life principles that they make you go through the classes and stuff.
And whenever you go in, don't you have to like sign a bunch of stuff whenever you're first
Yeah.
getting,
Yeah.
you're pretty much giving over your like life and stuff and just,
Mhm.
God,
I'm surprised they don't make you sign an NDA. I'm surprised.
yeah.
Maybe
I
they
just, I mean, it's just other rehabs. I've never heard other people talk about other rehabs like this, you know? Like I have a friend that's been through rehab a few times and I've never heard him talk like it's usually like a month to like 3 months long. And I just have never
Yeah.
heard any of this kind of stuff. Like they like make you do work crews all day, meaning like either be in the kitchen or be in the nursery or you're mowing lawn, you're out all day
Yeah.
mowing lawn in Houston, 80
Yeah.
degree, 100-degree weather. Um,
Yeah. For those poor guys. I mean, the girls did have it easy, but then there was like some girls that liked to do the lawn mowing stuff and they would there was one that they let her, so she liked to work outside and that was kind of cool, but like, it's rough, it's like, they give you 2 hours of free time a day when you're in the program. So
Did so you sat down with her and told her you were leaving. Did you end up so you guys ended up leaving that next week?
yeah,
Did
yeah.
they try and
Super
stop
awkward.
y'all or
Well, kind of like, okay, so I had this one final thing where David and a couple of the elders and I think Becky was in there and they had told me that I was probably gonna end up back, like they compared me to another girl that was in the program that I knew her and wasn't doing well. And so he basically said, well, look at her life. This is what she did. But so I, for a while, what kind of believed, well, shoot, that might happen. Like I got really depressed, for almost a year before it just starting to talk about it and realizing, well, they were wrong. And what I mean? I saw blessings in my life. Like, things just started working out for me and my husband. And it was like, well, something's not adding up. So
yeah.
yep. And they had the counseling with me and that was super awkward too. But after that, I was like so relieved. The last hurdle that I had to do before I could get away.
Was it like at that counseling session or was it like, okay, you're kind of leaving like on okay terms or like they're just
No. He said, no. He said, you do not have my blessing. Do not think that
that's that's what David said?
Yeah, he said, he said, don't think that I'm going to tell you what you want to hear. He said, you don't have my blessing. He said, if you ever get in a bad way and need to come back, you always have a place here. He did tell me that. But no, it was very clear that I was leaving on bad terms.
Yeah, got it. Well, that's the majority. That's usually what it is. It's very hard. I know very few people that have left in a good way. It's usually everybody leaves in a bad way and there are lies told to the rest of the congregation of why the person left, which the majority of the time it's not true. It's like,
I told everyone, they told me not to, but all the knew and the girls were excited for me. Like, and I snuck up my phone number and we keep in touch.
That's good.
Yeah. Like they were like, don't talk to each other, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, well, no, I'm going to talk to these girls. I love them. And I snuck all of them my phone number and like everyone knew. I mean, I wasn't going to keep a secret. I'm leaving to be with my husband. Like we have a place, we're going to be happy. And they were happy for us because when you're like living, you care about people like that. And you're like caring for their children and their other moms. And I did get to meet like amazing, amazing women.
And do you know if there are people still currently there that you knew or that?
Yeah. And my son's friends with them. One of the kids.
Yeah.
But the parents are still in the program and he's like best friends still with the kid. And it's kid struggles, like it's hard because he likes rock music and he likes to play the guitar and skateboard and it's hard for him, but it's really kind of nice because he does have my son Jordan and he has another kid that's not there anymore, but that was, and they're still really close. So
yeah. Well, yeah, it's so you guys finally get out and everything. And like you said kind of earlier, I guess it took a little bit of time just to kind of I guess you could say decompress from what was going on, from what just happened. You're like, you get out,
Deprogram. Yeah.
yeah, you get out and you're like, what just happened here?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it took me quite a while to get to a place that was like okay, and that my mindset wasn't thinking in those terms
Guilty,
anymore.
right?
Yeah, I would feel
Feeling
guilty
guilty.
sometimes about stuff, or
Yeah.
I just, like you said, I would just like feel like I was going to be cursed or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, the thing that I want you to know, and like especially being more recently leaving, is that it's not true at all. Like God is not that kind of God. If you believe in God, like God is not that kind of God to sit there and like, you're not going to this church, so you are in sin because you're not going to this specific church.
Yeah.
First of all, God is about relationship, not about going to a building or going to a specific place. Like, and he's like just the most, he is the complete definition of what a narcissist is.
Yeah.
The main person. You like, oh my God. Yeah.
Well, I'll listen to you. Like the sermons are the same
how could you not
every year? Like I was there and he would preach the same thing. And my grandpa goes, and my grandpa's a sweet, sweet man. I've never, he goes, I'm sorry, but I've always thought he was boring. I said, oh my gosh, TR.
He's the most boring preacher I've ever heard. We would
listen. We were on Zoom when the pandemic happened. We were doing Zoom church. You best believe we were past it.
Oh, that is hilarious. Wait a second. They tried to do like Zoom church, like
we
like
did
during
Zoom.
COVID?
Yeah, when it first happened, we did Zoom church. So me and my roommate would just like set the phone down and just fall asleep.
That is awesome.
I had my smartphone. By the time the pandemic hit, I was already graduated, so I had a smartphone. I was a big girl.
Yeah. Oh my God, that is too funny. But he would like preach these sermons that were just like 2 hours long, and then it was the most boring. You're falling asleep, and you're just like, oh God. Did anyone else preach, or was it just him?
Oh yeah, Pete preached sometimes. I think that, well, they would have like guests come, like Becky was friends with people and would have like guest pastors come, and that was pretty neat. And we got to go to like other churches and stuff, and that was cool. We met I met some really nice people.
Oh my God. Well, Jesus, that is just so funny. Like, I feel like it's just not even changed. It's like still just the same kind of thing going on, where it's like long sermons and long song of the Lord, and you can't go against what they say or do. It's all the same BS. I bet it's just 20 years later, like, or you know,
right?
This has been going on since the early 80s.
Yeah.
So were there any other red flags or anything, or any other like,
I mean, I don't think any big things. I wrote some stuff down, but like, okay, so there was one time, this is a pretty bad, I think. So this couple was there, and it was like time for them to pay their rent, right? Well, they had the guy's card with his money on it. They knocked it out, took it, and then they were going to kick him out that same day because he did something wrong. I'm not sure exactly what he had done because I only could talk to his wife. So, but like it was rent day. So they charged his card, and then they were going to kick him out with no money. And he ended up staying. They didn't kick him out at that time, but like that, she told me that, and I'm like, whoa, that's really messed up. Like they're going to put this guy on the street with nothing, you know. They knew you can't know it's rent day and then kick the person out the same, you know what I mean? You at least have to give them time.
Yeah.
But that's why you sign those papers saying that they can do that.
So they can charge you that.
Yeah.
And so do they have, I've heard a couple of things here. Do they have like credit cards or debit card on file?
Well, okay, so for example, my son, and this is, I'm not going to speak for everybody. So my dad had his stuff on file, I think through PayPal. My dad would do it through PayPal, but I would also, so my dad was paying my sponsorship, and then I was paying with my son's disability, my kid's sponsorship. So and now I would have extra money in my account, like for groceries and stuff, but my dad always made sure I had whatever I needed. And it wasn't always the case for other people. So that's really hard, when you've got somebody that can't do and they have to completely rely. So, but we would sneak food sometimes with our, like there was this time where my kid wanted Jell-O and my stole the Jell-O from the kitchen. And listen, the lady of course had it for dessert. Like it wasn't all these desserts we had back there were so random. And of course it was this one Jell-O that she had, and she went around and asked everybody. And I remember flushing the Jell-O down the toilet. And Brenda, and the girl ran and she was like, did she talk to you about the Jell-O? I said, I flushed it. I couldn't
flush that Jell-O down, man. I'm not gonna get caught with that Jell-O.
Because that was like, okay, well, and somebody had pointed out, well, it's our food stamps. You shouldn't have to sneak the Jell-O. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So, well, what I was getting at with the cards was that I kind of heard something along the lines of someone would go collect like everybody's debit card and then go into town to the bank and get funds out of the bank being cash. Did any of that ever happen?
I don't know about that. Like I think they would deposit, but I don't know how that worked. They just said they charged us for our sponsorship. So that's all we knew,
There was just something, I've heard a couple of things and there was just something a little off there. So
they could have been using our cards for whatever. Like we didn't know, because we did give them, like there were some people, like I said, they had my son's disability card, whatever the situation is different for everybody, but like they did have, so we could write up to ask how much was in our account, but if they wanted to, and I'm not going to say anybody did anything shady like that, because I don't really know, but we didn't have access to our own funds, and like we had to ask for it,
Yeah. Okay. Man. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on and sharing. And if you want to come back on at any time and share more,
okay.
I'm going to do a season 2. So we're going to have more people on and more discussions and everything. And I know some of this is not easy to discuss or disclose. So thank you so much. Every guest that comes on, I'm just so grateful, because we're just trying to just get the word out of what is still currently going on. This place is still open. So,
yeah. I had a friend that I told her, and she's like, you need to speak out. And I'm like, I could never do that. Like, I wouldn't even know. She's excited. I'm going to send her the video and everything when you post it. So, but yeah, grateful that you're doing this, because I was like, it is something like you feel like, golly, it's terrible. There's people, and a man recently passed actually last week. They're still there, a family that's still there. And it's just really hard. Yeah, it's super hard. And just seeing that, it's just like, oh, it's rough.
Well, yeah, thank you so much. And I can't believe that's already been an hour. Maybe
I know. I have so much more.
That is crazy. So yeah, we'll go ahead and end here, but I just want to let everybody out there know, well, first of all, just thank you so much for all the love and support. I do feel like this is something becoming bigger than myself. And like I said, every guest that has come on, like a huge thanks, and anyone that is trying to come on, just already a huge thanks. These are not easy things to talk about. So thank you so much. And yeah, I guess we will be done here. Okay. It has been such a pleasure.
Yes, definitely.
All right, everyone. Have a good evening.
All righty. Thank you. You too.
Bye.